And now we are going to jump into the Rose Bowl, baby. It's the college football playoffs out in Pasadena, California. Kind of weird to see Alabama in the Rose Bowl, right? Because as a traditional college football fan, we've gotten used to uh, certain teams from certain conferences going to certain bowl games. But not this year, baby. It's a college football playoff game. Alabama versus Michigan. Michigan currently is a 1.5 point favorite. And this game will be played on Saturday, December 30th at 5 p.m. Actually, I think that's on New Year's Day at 5 p.m.
That's
if
right.
I'm if I'm not mistaken. So we got Nick Saban versus Jim Harbaugh. I don't have to go into lengthy terms to describe the turmoil that has went on at Michigan over this past season. It has been scandal-ridden, suspension-ridden. Jim Harbaugh coached less games than he was suspended for this past year, or right about the same amount. Pretty tough season and tumultuous season for the Michigan Wolverines, but it did not stop them from dominating the Big Ten and marching their way to the college football playoff. On the other hand of that, you've got Alabama, who, I mean, it was the end of the world at the beginning of the season for the Alabama fan, right? Barely beat South Florida, lose to Texas. Just didn't look good. The offense didn't look good. Excuse me. Everybody was saying the Tommy Reese experiment had already failed. Well, guess what? The greatest coach of all time figured out a way to pull his team out of the flames and get them to the college football playoff. They're fresh off an SEC championship victory over the Georgia Bulldogs. They won 27-24. Defense played really, really well in that football game. And what we're going to do is we're going to unpack both of these teams and talk about, what the strengths of these teams are and what the weaknesses are, and where maybe some of these teams or the other team can find a weakness, a chink in the armor per se. Thank you so much for watching the First and Long College Football Show. We hope you'll like the video and subscribe and come hang out with us. Mason, this is a very intriguing game. Probably, I think this game is getting a little bit more attention than the other playoff game at this point. Why do you think that is? I mean, this is two teams that I think are a lot alike. We're going to kind of go through some of these stats here in just a second. But man, they're almost like mirror images of themselves. We've talked about Michigan all year, kind of being built in the image of an Alabama or Georgia. Well, here they are in their matchup with their I guess kind of role model per se.
Yeah, yeah, and two blue bloods, right, in college football, and I think that's what's so enticing. From a TV perspective, and as a college football fan, what isn't there to like in this matchup? It's two heavyweight programs, and how they're built. Two teams that are kind of built for each other in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
They're kind of built to beat each other, and that's always fun to watch. So I'm anxious to break this down with you and see kind of what your thoughts are on how this is going to unfold. Both of these teams obviously enjoy grounding and pounding and running the rock, and I'm anxious to kind of break these numbers down with you and see who kind of has the edge here statistically.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. Both of these teams want to run the football, Mason. I mean, they both made it very, very clear. I think Alabama is more of the explosive variety as far as when they do pass the football. But we've heard Michigan fans say all year, "Why would we throw it when
Yeah.
we don't have to?"
Mm-hmm.
Will Alabama be able to put Michigan in a situation where it's obvious that they have to? And that is a matchup that happens in a lot of college football games. Can we make it obvious what it is that you need to do now? Is Michigan going to be able to put them in those types of situations?
Oof, that's a tough question because they've done it to everyone, right? They've been able to run the ball and play conservative to everyone. I think that's the biggest question to me in this game is if Michigan has to pass the ball, did them not doing it all season actually end up hurting them in this game? because now they
Yeah.
haven't practiced it. Now they don't know what it's like to have to play from behind and to pass the ball downfield and take deep shots, pass heck more than 30 times in a game. That's if Michigan's having to do that, I think that they're probably going to lose this game.
Hmm.
So I hope that it doesn't end up shooting them in the foot. Hopefully, they're able to get the ground game going and get at least 3 yards every carry, to put themselves in third and short. I think that if they're able to do that, to put themselves in third and short, fourth and short, maybe they give themselves a chance in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think I presented that question completely bass backwards on that, on that. But yes, can Alabama get Michigan into obvious passing situations? And vice versa. It works both ways. Let's pull up those stats and kind of look at it, because the similarities in this matchup are stark, and they really are. Um, so rushing offense, we talked about these teams being ground and pound, but Alabama is 83rd in the country at 4 yards per attempt this year. Michigan is 60th in the country at 4.3. So it hasn't always been the most efficient ground attack, but it's a grind you into a pile of dust style is what they
Mhm.
both want to do. Alabama has the largest offensive line, not only in college football, and by large I mean literally the they're large as hell. They have the biggest line in college football and the NFL average size of player.
Yeah.
Um, so naturally, they'd love to be able to lean on you, but this Michigan defense is one that I think they're built for that style. That's what they see every day in practice, right?
Yeah.
This is a big Michigan team themselves. Um, Passing offense, neither one of these teams are anything to write home about. Now, one thing that I think is really impressive, Jalen Milroe, who's the quarterback for Alabama in this game, he averages over 12 yards per completion. So he's looking down the field. He's looking down the field. And on the other hand of that, you've got JJ McCarthy, who, for the most part of the season, has done the opposite of that. He's wanted to just manage the game. I'll throw it if I need to throw it, and when I do throw it, it's not going to be a bomb. That's just not their style. Can they do that in a game? Michigan fans say yes, but we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. Um, Third down conversions, I think, are going to be really important in this game. Um, Both of these teams are really good on third down. I say really good. They're both top 20, and they're both top 20, or excuse me, top 30, I guess, in opponent third down conversion. So who's giving up something here? Who's giving up something here? Because Alabama, they weren't even really that great on third down, against Georgia, but they were good on fourth down. And Alabama is the best fourth down team in the country. They're killing it on fourth down, and they go for it whenever they're on the plus side of the field. Um, I'm just interested to see uh, who can get the ball down the field. I mean, Jalen Milroe, his strength for the season has been throwing the ball down the field, as I said. But Michigan hasn't allowed anybody to do that really besides Maryland all year. Do you think Jermaine Burton is going to be able to do something against this Michigan secondary? Because I feel like that is very clearly their their one guy that they can point to and say that's our difference maker on our
Mhm.
wide receiver core, right?
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to have to. Is kind of my question. Is it really going to come down to just Jermaine Burton, or is Jalen Milroe going to be able to distribute the football well enough against a Michigan secondary that is certainly the weakest point of their defense? Right. If you're going to attack their defense, you're probably going to want to do it in the passing game and against their secondary. I don't think that Michigan has faced an offense that is rolling like the Tide is at this point, and we've seen them struggle against much lesser offenses, right? So I think, to me, I think that Alabama is going to be able to pass the ball pretty well. I think that Burton's going to be involved certainly, but also think that like Niblack is probably one who you look at and he's a mismatch as a tight end, and I think that he's one that could probably eat in this game. Also, we're expecting McClellan to come back. It's going to be tough to rush against the Michigan front seven. I do think that they're going to struggle with that, but if you can get him involved in some way and get him averaging 4 yards a carry, even something like that, it's going to be really tough, and it's going to open up the back end to where you're not just relying on Jermaine Burton. Certainly you'd like to get Burton 100 yards in this game or something like that, but I think that they've got playmakers all over the football on the Alabama side of the ball, to where they're kind of going to have Michigan's defense on their heels, for the most part, and once they start passing the ball well enough to put Michigan on their heels, now they've got to start playing a little bit more prevent. It opens up the running game, and I think that it could snowball in Alabama's favor, in that sense.
Yeah, I just here's my thing. I just don't trust Jalen Milroe to put together consistent like against Georgia. I think Michigan's defense is very comparable to Georgia's.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not saying they got different strengths and weaknesses. I'm just saying talent level wise, I think they're very comparable at this point.
Overall.
Mm-hmm. We didn't see Jalen Milroe just put together like multiple awesome drives or anything. Like,
no.
and we haven't really seen that all year. I mean, for the love of God, they didn't even score 30 on Arkansas. And that wasn't that was like halfway through the season. That wasn't that long ago.
Right.
I just Milroe has gotten better every year he's been out at Alabama. Okay. And he's never played, as many snaps as he is now, but I just haven't seen him be able to master the short and intermediate game to the extent that I'm ready to say that he's just going to be able to take over a game and distribute the ball. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just haven't seen that. Like, now, is he able to get loose and run on this Michigan defense? It's possible. I don't know how Michigan's going to handle that.
Yeah.
I think we've seen a couple examples of what not to do against Milroe. We saw Georgia on those couple of drives that I just referenced when Milroe put together some great drives for Alabama against Georgia. They were a couple of real good ones. Georgia didn't put any pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
We actually in some cases had two spies. I say we. I'm a Georgia fan. Just throw that out there. But we had two spies on him that were not blitzing. We watched Auburn do something similar on the last play of their game, where for some freaking reason on a Hail Mary, they don't bring any quarterback pressure. And they freeze and you just shadow him. You shadow that quarterback. Dumbest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Some of the dumbest crap I've ever seen. Especially in a Hail Mary situation, not necessarily Georgia's situation, because for the most part, what Georgia did worked. Alabama had about less than 300 yards for the game. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they just tore them up or something. But I feel like we've seen a couple examples of what not to do against this guy. And I don't think Michigan is a team that needs to spy every play Jalen Milroe. I think they've got a good enough defense where they're going to be able to sit back and in some cases and then come after the quarterback and others and just try to maintain their lanes on the field and maybe not rush past him. I think that's obviously trouble as well. I just I don't trust Alabama's offense a ton yet. This defense is really, really, really good. The over under set at 45. We both talked about it before the show. I think under is a good bet. I think that's a pretty good bet considering these two teams are definitely defensive led. Let's go on to our next visual and let's kind of just break down some of the playmakers that are playing in this game on offense and defense. We've talked about Jalen Milroe, and each year that he's been at Alabama and played, his percentage has gotten incrementally better. But this is by far, obviously, his best year. He has never played this much. 65.5% completion percentage, 2,718 yards this year, 23 touchdowns, and then he's responsible for 35 total for the year with his rushing yards. And he has been sacked a lot, though. I mean, he's been sacked. Alabama has given up the second most sacks in the SEC this year, behind Arkansas. They've given up 43 sacks. Arkansas has given up 47. Part of that, I think, is Jalen Milroe thinking he's about to take off and run, and maybe he gets tackled for a loss. Technically, that's a sack, right? But it's no secret that teams have been able to get after Jalen Milroe, especially in the first part of the season before they really decided, okay, we're going to run this guy. What are your thoughts on Jalen Milroe this year? And do you think that he's the quarterback that can win this game for Alabama and take them to a national championship?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a playmaker. It's not necessarily in his passing attack, but he has gotten a little bit better. I think in the short and intermediate passes, we know what he can do downfield. He's an absolute legitimate threat downfield in the long ball, and he's a threat with his legs. You know, he's a all around kind of all purpose quarterback in a way, and you know, when you look at the short stuff and what he's been able to do, look, we saw this a lot, you know, last year as well with Bryce Young. But Alabama's offense is best when things go off script, right? When his first and second read is not there, he's able to kind of if he's able to escape the pocket, he's able to extend the drive. You know, we saw in the SEC championship game that little flip to Isaiah Bond to extend the drive on third down, and you know, and that was a key moment, you know, and so I think that he's getting a lot more comfortable and he's able to improvise a lot better, and he's certainly the most important playmaker in this ball game on both sides of the ball, you know, for both teams, and I think that his success will directly correlate to Alabama's success or their inability to succeed and win this game.
Yep. Yep. Let's take a look at some of the playmakers in this thing. Everybody knows Jermaine Burton at this point. This is the go-to wide receiver for this Alabama offense. Ex-Georgia player. This guy has really developed since he's been at Alabama. I feel like he's gotten better, and this is definitely his best year that he's ever had. 777 yards, 8 touchdowns receiving. Chase McClellan, he's the feature back in this backfield. Roydell Williams is kind of like a secondary guy. These are the straws that stir the drink besides Milroe, right? These are guys that make it happen, and the offensive line has really come along as the year has went on, and they've made it possible for a lot of these guys. So we don't consider the offensive line to be playmakers, but nobody's making any plays without their offensive line. And they have definitely gotten a lot better as the year has gone on. There's zero doubt about that. Do you think that Alabama has the edge over Michigan as far as their skill position players?
I do, because I think that there are two more that you could have added to the slot, in Isaiah Bond and Nyblack, you know, the tight end. So I think that Bond is playing like the better wide receiver over Jermaine Burton right now, and he's kind of really coming on as of late and making big plays, you know, and that's exactly what Alabama needs. You know, and Michigan on the other side, you know, Roman Wilson has been very efficient when he's given the opportunity to catch the ball and go score when he's healthy. You know, he's been a very effective wide receiver, and it certainly is a playmaker and a baller himself. And then they've got a two-headed monster at running back, you know, so they've definitely got the weapons, right? But I think as a whole, you know, and it's no surprise based on the recruiting, but I think that Alabama has the edge at the skill position.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's keep it moving here, and we'll take a look at some of the playmakers for Michigan on this. On the other hand, here, you just spoke about them, Roman Wilson and Blake Corum. Donovan Edwards was a guy that a lot of people, had kind of circled in the preseason, thought that it would be a big year for him. He's kind of taken a step back. Not only are all of the numbers down, but the yards per carry are down as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not just getting less carries and therefore less yards. He's averaging a lot less. It's been kind of a tough year, and even Blake Corum to this point in the season, we don't know, if we know Michigan's playing one more game here against Alabama, maybe two. But his numbers are down as well. He came off of the knee injury from last year, but 218 rushing attempts, 1,028 yards. That's good for 4.7. That's really good. I mean, that's just no denying when you have that many rushes and that many yards. 4.7 yards per carry is really, really good. 24 touchdowns responsible for. Roman Wilson is pretty much, in my opinion, the sole threat in this wide receiver room.
Yeah.
At least that we know of. How
Yeah.
could we know any other ones? I mean, this guy has 41 receptions. I mean, that's like at least 25% of all the receptions for the team, right? I mean, like,
And he's been hurt a lot. I mean, he didn't even play every game.
right. So 16.1 yards per catch. I mean, these are all really good numbers, obviously. But
Mhm.
you're talking about between these two skill players here, you've got 35 touchdowns in between just those two guys. These two guys are the playmakers in the straw that stirs the drink for Michigan for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of weird. And if you don't follow baseball, you're not really going to pick up on this comparison. But Blake Corum, he really reminds me of Jose Altuve for the Houston Astros. Kind of a short, stocky guy, but just kind of gets the job done. And is a baller in his own right. And
They don't have him beating on trash cans to tell the plays, do they?
I don't think so. Not
Okay.
not that I know of, but they do have someone who
I hear he's a
goes
hell of
and
a vacuum
scouts.
salesman, though.
Yeah, right. Uh, but
I kid.
I think that Michigan, their identity has been to to just run the ball. Like even when it's not working, just run the ball.
Yeah.
It's like, and eventually, like something's going to happen, and Blake Corum's a big part of that. It seems like he's just gutty, I think that Michigan is going to be relentless in this game as well. They have to be because that's who they are. But if Roman Wilson is able to take advantage of some success in the running game and they're able to get him down deep, this guy, I mean, he's a matchup problem, and against a really, really, really good Alabama secondary, one of the best that we've seen in a long time. I think that he's still a matchup problem. If they're not able to bracket him and kind of take him out of the equation, which they will. But also, Alabama is going to want to play a lot of man. So, if he matches up with a Terry and Arnold, that could be an issue because I think that Roman Wilson would have the size. I don't have the measurables pulled up, but I think that he would have a size advantage on Terry on Arnold. So, if Michigan is able to average, 4 yards a carry or something like that, and extend drives, that's going to be the ball game here. I predict that it's going to be an under, overall. I think that this is going to be a low scoring game. So can you extend drives? Can you play field position and, kind of play possession? That's going to be, whoever plays possession in this game, I think is going to be the one who ends up winning it at the end of the day. But I do like Roman Wilson. I think that he is a matchup problem, but they've got to get the run game established in order for him to be effective, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they got to keep the quarterback upright, and Michigan's done a great job of doing that this year. and Alabama has to do the same. Let's move on to some of these other playmakers here. JJ McCarthy, we've talked about him at length this season. 74.2% is very, very, very solid. I mean, there's just no denying that. That is very, very impressive. 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 146 yards rushing, and 3 TDs. So not completely immobile. Anything on JJ McCarthy here? I mean, I feel like we've taken this horse out to pasture a couple times, right?
Yeah, I think that the rushing, a lot of those yards came later in the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's something to point out. That's not a super high number, 146, but he can run.
They're useful yards, though.
Yeah,
Very useful. Like he runs when they really need it. I feel like.
yeah, and he extends drives with his legs if he needs to. But he just hasn't been asked to do a whole lot, and it is what it is when you're that effective, especially defensively.
Yeah.
What is there to worry about? Um, again, I just wonder if it's going to end up biting them in this game. Not having that practice and doing the reps week in and week out, playing a lighter schedule.
Yeah.
Sometimes that does end up affecting a football program.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, this both of these football teams right here are led by their defense. I mean, let's just be real. I mean, all the stats point in that direction, and it's no doubt about it. There's a bunch of freakazoids on the field, and we've got lots and lots of stats. Colson, the linebacker, pictured there, 79 total tackles this year. Very, very impressive season that he's had. Um, we've got um, Harrell there, 6.5 sacks this year. That's your guy that gets after the quarterback. He's got the most sacks on the team. And then we got a cornerback pictured there, and I was trying to pull up his stats, but really, really solid corner with tackles and I think 4 interceptions this year. And Alabama, on the other hand of that, you got Kool-Aid McKinstry and Dallas Turner, and then you got Caleb Downs, who's came in and has made a ton of tackles for this Alabama defense this year.
Yeah,
What
leads the
a
team.
pickup. Yeah, he leads the team, man. And my God, what a pickup in recruiting that guy was. I mean, just incredible talent there. Definitely will be playing on Sundays, but as these two defenses go, these teams go, and Alabama would not have been able to win a lot of the games that they won this year without this defense. I'm sorry. There's no way. But guess what? You don't play without your damn defense. It's a team sport. And this Alabama defense is coached by the greatest coach of all time. And they know what they're doing, man. And they brought in a new defensive coordinator, the old man. They brought him in. He's old as dirt, but he's coached like 60 years. Like Alabama's defensive coordinator, and I don't know why his name
Kevin
is
Steele.
Kevin Steele. His name was slipping my mind. He's coached football longer than Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, has been alive.
Yeah.
I mean, he has seen it all. Like, I mean, this guy coached back like in Nam. Okay, I mean, it's been that long. So you got tons of experience. I like both of these defenses a lot. I can't hardly decipher. Alabama seems much more strong on the secondary.
Yeah.
Michigan seems a lot stronger in the front seven. They seem like a little bit of two different styles of defense, don't you?
Very, very different styles. Even in the front seven, or on the line, I guess more appropriately. Alabama is really built to stop the pass, and that's not what Michigan wants to do. And that could be a little bit of an issue for the
Yeah.
Alabama defense. They're really good on the edges, and they're really good, with Dallas Turner and I believe it's Williams on the end, if I'm not mistaken. Um, anyways, on both ends that they can go and get the quarterback, and
Yep.
that's what they like to do. And they play man, I think that, well, at least I think that they're gonna play man in this game, because why wouldn't you? Load the box and hope that you've got guys up front that can slow this Michigan offensive line down. I think that they do. and then just play man on the edges. Give yourself some bodies up in the middle, and then allow Caleb Downs to come down and make some plays on the against the run, which I'm sure he will. And that's kind of the way I see it going. I do like Michigan's defense. I just think that they haven't really faced any strong passing attacks, and not that Alabama is that, but I think that they're going to find some holes in this Michigan defense at some point.
I definitely think it's possible. We just a lot like we have not seen. Excuse me, we have not seen the Michigan offense. We have also not seen this Michigan defense struggle with really anything other than one game against Maryland and I guess a little bit against Ohio State. A
Yeah,
little, a little, but not struggle. I wouldn't consider it struggling. So Michigan is like more largely unknown than Alabama. I feel like we know much more about Alabama. And I think that is a testament to the fact that Alabama actually played a schedule worth of shit this year. You
hmm
know, Michigan's schedule was not good. They played no Power Five out of conference teams, none. Again, for multiple years in a row. Um, and so now here we are at the end of the year, and we don't know if Michigan can throw the ball for real. We don't
yeah,
know. So if you're betting on this game, I would be very careful because, like I said, we don't know about what Michigan has to offer or not offer. But with all that being said, if I was to put money on this one, I would bet the under. But if you had a gun to my head, I would bet on Michigan. And I just, I think there's a chance that Michigan is really damn good. There's a chance. I don't think Alabama's that damn good.
yeah,
I think they're pretty good, but I don't think they're some kind of excellent team. They're definitely not elite, man. They wouldn't have won a national championship in 21. They wouldn't have won one in 22. They wouldn't have won one in 20. They wouldn't have won one in 19. This team, I'm saying.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? They
yeah,
wouldn't have won a championship in any of those years. And none of the other teams that won it that year are coming to play Alabama. So
yeah.
don't get me wrong. I understand that. But this 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 seems different than some of those national championship saving teams. But what's your final thoughts on the game here?
Oh man, this is the toughest one for me to break down and figure out. I just feel like Nick Saban is going to be able to get it done in this game. I think that he's probably found some holes, and they're gonna try to come out and take advantage of that. And I think when you look at the different stylistically, styles make fights, right? And I think stylistically, you know, Alabama's more um they're more capable, in my opinion, of changing their style and being a little bit more fluid than Michigan is. I think that we've seen them take some shots down the field when they need to, at least, and extend drives, with their legs when they have to, or passing the ball and improvising. So, give me the big playmaker in Jalen Milroe in this game. I think that it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a heavyweight slugfest, but I like Alabama to be able to pull it out at the end.
Yeah, and I definitely echo that sentiment. We know more about Alabama than we do about Michigan at this point. And if you're an Alabama or Michigan fan or just a fan of college football, we invite you to hit the subscribe button. Come hang out with us at First and Long College Football. That's what we want. Shoot us a comment. Tell us what your score prediction is for this game. We'd like to know. And then after the game, we can all go back and celebrate your 100% accurate answer on that.
Absolutely.
Best of luck to the Crimson Tide. Best of luck to the Wolverines. We will all be watching, of course. And thanks for tuning in to the First and Long College Football Show.